Is that so I can horn a question? Be better. Cool. Any questions? Certo. No, I don't know. This sounds like a very important question. The warning for boring. That's what we tell the audience. In the mind of the audience, it's a big risk. It's a punishment. The thing that we fear as humans is to fail publicly. So the fact that these players would come on stage and face this possible challenge of being told you failed in front of everybody just raises the risk in the mind of the audience. We know as players, this is salvation. But if we say to the audience, oh, this is salvation and we like it, then it's not sport. See, if you have a night and the show is struggling and the improvisers are just having a difficult time, if every scene gets a horn, ooh, it's heavy. That's why the judges look for things like 30 seconds, you wave down lights. The judges have other tools. But the responsibility for the changing of the energy of the show is not just the responsibility of the judges. That's why the players need to be going, what does the show need? Yeah, we're struggling to tell stories. Let's do a word at a time. It's nice, it's simple, we can do it for 1 or 2 minutes, we focus on the story, done. But this also means that as players, you need to kind of look at the games and go, so what games are useful and why? Some games will really help ground improvisers and focus on story. Some games will help build emotion and create beauty or sympathy or compassion, and some games are just stupid fun. If the whole show is filled with stupid fun, then it becomes empty calories. Nobody cares. Yeah. But if you have something that's slow and beautiful and poetic and maybe a statement on life, and then the next scene is stupid fun, we get these ebbs and flows and variety in the show. Keith often used to refer to Theatresports in contrast to a circus. Yeah? So you might have the elephant act, and then the tightrope walker, and then the clown, and then the tigers, and then the jugglers. But you're changing energy, you're changing focus, you're changing emotion. But it calls on you as artists to take responsibility for the art you're creating. In my opinion, Theatresports fails when it's just endless stupid games. Yeah? That's chili that you use, for a little bit of spice, but it's not the heart of the show. We're trying to create an environment and an atmosphere where anything can happen. And we're also trying to create an environment that if we take a risk in the world of anything can happen and it doesn't work, that we can get that off stage. Keith used to encourage, be obvious, be average. Trying to do your best is a recipe for stage fright. Because he knew that players in stress are not in a place of curiosity and wonder. And we're trying to create an environment where we can connect to our impulse and our intuition to play in spontaneity. You should be taking joy and delight in what your partners are creating. If you're not watching the other team, if you're not watching the other players because you're worried about what you're doing, that's a sign of your own stage fright. Yeah, watch what they're doing and do something other. Make things up. Make mistakes. So the elements that Keith taught in his work are the principles that go into the structure of the show. And when you start thinking of it that way, you go, okay. So if we have all the teams run out and stand and get applause, and are we building stress or lowering stress? Yeah, like every player comes out and is like, I'm the best. If we start saying, this show is amazing, the best you've ever seen, are we raising stress or lowering stress? When you're working on the show, when you hit moments, and you will, where you go, something's not working, think back to the principles of Keith's work. Yeah, because the answer will lay in there. If you start going, oh, we have to fix it and be better and be good, you're starting to move away from be average, be obvious. So your thinking is going to change, so your solutions are going to change. Yeah. Oh, the show is really slow. We need to fix it. Okay, everybody go faster. Okay, that's going to raise stress, get people panicked. Yeah. The show is running slow. Why? Where is it running slow? The teams are taking too long to challenge. Why? Are they overthinking their challenge? That's control and strategy. Are they debating as a team to figure out what they're going to do? Why doesn't someone just take a risk? Are they waiting to be told what to do? Why don't they feel that they can take control, that they can leap forward, that they can take a risk? Why are they being obedient? They're afraid of something. So you see how the answers all kind of come back to those key, like the reasons come back to those key principles, and then you go, oh, then that's what we fix. If you need strategy, let's let go of strategy. Yeah. If you're overthinking the challenges, take a risk. As we just did in that second round, you didn't talk about the challenges, you just went, I'll think some up. It doesn't take a great intelligence to walk across the stage and say, we challenge you to a scene involving family. And it's a challenge. We challenge you to a scene that's the scene you want to do. We challenge you to a scene based on what the judges tell us to do. Take risks, leap into the unknown, be playful. So why do they need to do that? Yeah, ego. Yeah. Society has trained us to focus on being our best. Improvisation is collaboration. So if you have 5 people all trying to be their best, are they collaborating? Probably not, because they're all playing their own game, which is why they want to blame each other afterwards. In my mind, I had a great idea. Why weren't you doing the thing I imagined? Nobody knows the movie in your brain. It's a great pleasure and joy to teach students to not fear failure. When I first started to observe how Keith taught, instead of being a student doing the exercises, being a student of watching what he was doing, he would set something up and students would be working, and he'd come and he'd sit down next to me and he said, you start by removing the fear. And then there's many quotes of him saying, if it wasn't for fear, I'd have nothing to teach. Because you don't remove it and then it's gone. You constantly work on students for their whole impro life. And you work on yourself as an improviser, your whole impro life of letting go of the fear. And fear presents in a lot of different ways for different reasons. So you see students behaving a particular way. You go, okay, what is their strategy? How does that strategy protect them? Why do they need that protection? What is it they fear? Then what games or exercises can you give them where the fear gets removed? In a playful way, that's an experience that they go, oh, that felt really nice. Usually around the 3-year-ish point, improvisers start to shift in what they want. As a beginning player, it's a whole new world. You're just happy to play. Run around like puppies. Life is amazing. Everybody's saying yes to me. But then that becomes a routine and it becomes expected. And you start playing games that you've played before. So you start feeling like you know what you're doing. They probably are not telling good stories. So the lack of satisfaction may be in that. Word at a time, which is a game, but it's actually an exercise. You should be able to tell a good story in a word at a time. Very few people do. They play, we will alternate words, but they don't care about the story. So that's in the teaching as well as in what the student is experiencing. And there's a lot of wonderful exercises that are developed to train particular skills and techniques that unfortunately have been turned into stupid games. Because people have discovered how to get funny jokes, and then those jokes get passed on to the next generation, to the next generation, to the next generation. So instead of improvising, meaning we play the exercise and we try to tell a story, people are regurgitating jokes that they've seen other improvisers do. So of course that's boring. Also, long form is a great way to hide all of your sins. And I enjoy doing long forms, but if you watch a scene, quite often in a scene, let's say it's a 3 or a 5 minute scene, within the first 15, 20, 30 seconds, you get a sense of the possibility of the story. And a common problem is you watch the improvisers for the next 2 or 3 minutes, avoid doing that. Because if we do the thing that we all feel should happen, then we're in the unknown. So we avoid it. But the same thing happens in long form. You can watch the first scene or two and you kind of know where the story is going, but now we have to wait 50 minutes for them to get there. A fun exercise is to watch a long form. After about 5 or 10 minutes, write down what you think the story is going to be, what should happen, and see if they ever do it, or how long it takes. 2 people meet in the first scene and they're flirting. Oh, it's going to be 50 minutes before they actually kiss.
It's a real life.
Maybe, but theater is life condensed. Look at what happens in Romeo and Juliet. But that's why we don't want to kiss early, because now we don't know what to do with it. If our 2 characters were flirting in the first scene, and the third scene was us with 2 twin newborn babies, stressed and fighting, now we're in the unknown. And so is the audience. What's going to happen to this couple? Because the minute we flirt, they know there's going to be a relationship. So what happens if we have the relationship? Now what? But that's where we have to invent and create and play and explore, which should be the thing we crave, but it's the thing we avoid. There's a format that was invented at Loose Moose Theater called More or Less. One of the things Keith hated about long form is that the players would make a promise at the beginning, and then if the show went really bad, you're locked into a promise for an hour. But at Loose Moose, if we started a long form and within the second scene it's like, oh, this isn't working, we'd probably go, you know what, that's not working, we're starting again. But you don't see that anywhere in the world, because people go, no, we have to do this now. It's our ego, we must do this. So they get locked in. So More or Less was a format developed to go, okay, let's find out if the audience actually wants more of this story. So you'd play a scene and you'd have a director, and the director might stop the scene at a point that you go, oh, this feels like we're delivering a promise, or it feels like we're slipping away. And I ask the audience, would you like to see more or less of this story? And if they say more, great, we continue the scene, or maybe I advance the story to another point. If they say less, great, another director sets something up. And the objective is, can we do an hour show where the audience is actually yelling more for every single scene as we're developing the show? I haven't been in More or Less where we've actually made one solid story without the audience yelling less.
You haven't?
No. So that tells me that maybe our storytelling skills are not as good as we think they are to sustain a full hour, at least in these examples. There are some great shows like Showstopper and Ostentatious who do really good shows, but even as an improviser, watching the improvisers, I can feel the struggle points. But the cast are highly trained actors, comedians, and improvisers, so they sense it, they feel it, and they adjust. But that's not the normal with most improv companies. I think the terminology of short form and long form I find really interesting, because when I ask people how to define it, I have yet to have people with a common definition. I think anytime we have a chance to tell a story, it's an opportunity to create something wonderful or terrifying or political or heartbreaking or tender or funny or joyful. I think the problem actually comes with improvisers panicking to be entertaining. And defining entertaining is getting a laugh at all consequences, at any consequence. I think it shows up in both, just differently. Keith used to say, you know, laughter is not the measure of our work, because the audience gripped in silence is also a beautiful reaction. Wiping tears, holding their breath. This is theater. Having 200 people all laugh at the same time is glorious. But often improvisers get misled because they're performing in front of 200 people and 5 people laughed. That's not capturing the audience. You don't have the audience roar, you've got a couple of maybe sympathy laughs. You know, theater is, it's a bit anarchy, you know. Being on stage is a privilege. We have a voice. We have an opportunity to present a world we would like to live in, to question values and points of view, to give people a night away from the horrors of the world. Yeah. So knowing that this is a privilege that you have access to, what are you going to do with it?